Looking at the Markets with David Modell. Welcome to Looking at the Markets with David Modell. Today I've got a very highly anticipated interview today with Mr. Clif High. I've been looking forward to this a long time. Mr. Clif High is well known on social media, on YouTube, and in the financial industry in general. And he is in charge of halfpasthuman.com, which is a website that you definitely want to check out. You want to see his reports for sure. Mr. High, thank you for joining me today on Looking at the Markets, sir.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about halfpasthuman.com for sure, and we're going to try to get people over to your site to check out your reports. But first, I just wanted to get some of your wisdom and insight today, because these markets, my goodness, it seems like the market that just won't go down for any length of time. The so-called Trump trade has been just going strong, and it seems like the market doesn't want to come back to reality. Is this sustainable for the rest of 2017? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's sustainable basically forever. The issue is you're not the question. We are not framing our questions around the reality we have to deal with.
Right.
So if we were to look at the market on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly, etc., we would see this general progression upward, 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 with very few little hiccups. And we think, well, this is reflective of the underlying social order as it should be. And that's what they want you to think, and that is precisely why they've engineered the markets to follow that trajectory. So they can sustain it as long as they wish to. What we're observing, however, is a hyperinflation. It's a hyperinflation that reflects more like the hyperinflation in Germany in 1918 than in 1923. And so it will accelerate slightly and spill over into other areas. And those people that are not watching the other areas won't be aware that it's hyperinflation until we reach levels of maybe Dow 50,000 or 125,000. And then at that point, you'll say, well, these 30 stocks are now worth 125,000, and I can buy 2 loaves of bread for that amount of money. And that will be our reality at that point if you're still dealing in dollars and dealing with the paper debt markets. Because what you're actually watching is the very end of a number of cycles, grand cycles, some of them running over almost 300 years. And the paper fiat or the fiat money experiment that Nixon launched us on, taking it away from gold in 1972, is now at its end. Along with that, it's also going to bring down all these other cycles, the derivatives, which are a fast burn cycle because they're so large. When I talk about cycles, I don't necessarily mean economic, excuse me, so much as I am thinking in terms of energy or energetic cycles. So things that are very large and fast moving are going to be very short-lived. Thus, the derivatives in their cycle might only really exist the past 50 years, another year, and then that's it. Whereas the slower-moving initial coinage that eventually supported the paper fiat has been in place for 200-plus years, 254 or something like that, but that cycle is also ending. So if you're looking in the right spot, you see hyperinflation everywhere. I saw hyperinflation today on a grand scale.
Kind of a scary picture down the road, but Dow 50,000, amazing.
But it's meaningless. It's meaningless. You won't be able to get out, and even if you did get out, of what value are the $50,000 in a system that's degrading?
Kind of scary. Right now, I'm a huge fan of precious metals. Just a personal question: are you a stacker yourself of precious metals, or do you go for the ETFs, that kind of thing?
No, I would never touch any paper. An ETF to me is an abomination. It's a con job. It's a deliberate attempt or deliberate scheme to defraud people. Because and I won't go into the details. That's just my opinion of it. No, I would never go into a paper investment, but I certainly, oddly enough, I'll go into an ethereal investment in the form of cryptocurrencies. I like metals. Stacking, I'm an old guy, so no, I can't stack that stuff. It's all too heavy. I just don't want to deal with it. Plus, while it's a good store of value, it is simply not a currency anymore. And everybody needs to recognize this, that in the past, when there were fewer humans on the planet, gold or silver could serve as a currency. Now it's not feasible. And even if it were, even if we actually acknowledged the true amount of gold that's out there, according to the 1928 through 1934 global assay done by Buckminster Fuller, and just accepted that his numbers were correct, and we knew that we had enough gold that we could each have dozens and dozens and dozens of ounces around for all 7 billion of us and circulate those, it still would not happen because the stuff is just too clunky to circulate and be an effective medium of exchange in a planet where I need to get something done in a business environment in Northern Africa 5 minutes from now.
You know, I've actually been looking at the lesser known and lesser spoken of precious metals such as platinum, palladium. Those seem really exciting right now to me. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I don't know why they would excite you. That would be a personal proclivity on your part. Precious metals are fine. They're a good store of value. The exotic metals, if you want to get into actually something that all right, if you were to step outside of the monetized metals, gold and silver, then you have to ask yourself, in the world that we're now living in, what is the use case or value case for palladium, platinum, etc.? And I would argue that they are precious only in an industrial sense at this stage. And therefore, you would have to say, well, if I'm going to be into that space, let me see, what are the really good industrial precious metals to purchase? And I could point you at 2 or 3 others that are going to outperform palladium and platinum because they're these metals are tied up into the new energy fields. And so if you were looking at that kind of a thing, you'd be looking at rare earths that are going to be used to moderate and ameliorate the constituency of the lithium, iron, and potassium, or the LiPo batteries. And so that's going to be a huge, giant market. And so there's a real use case for those, whereas the use case for platinum is falling, as is the use case for palladium.
Interesting. Okay. Very good, sir. Now, we did touch upon cryptocurrencies. Your Bitcoin, of course, is the best known, but it seems a little toppy. Seems like the hype has already been priced in, possibly. It might even be on the decline now. It almost went up to 3,000. Now it's around 2,500 something. Should we be looking at other altcoins, Ethereum, Ripple, things like that? What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, you should look at those other coins. But again, your perspective is that of someone who's examining this in a small market sense. And so if we take a step back or climb up a ways and look down from the top of the building, we see that what's going on with Bitcoin and the other currencies is exactly as I stated earlier. It is hyperinflation. In a hyperinflation, people will flee degrading money for anything that they can get. So in the course of the degradation of the denarius at the fall of the Roman Empire, the most valuable asset one could purchase was wine. And it was both a store of value and a consumable, but also a commodity that was used to trade. And it was used in lieu of the denarius because they kept adding copper until eventually there was only 2% silver in the denarius. And that was about the end of the Roman Empire. We see the same effect when the florin was being degraded and people fled to try and get value stored somewhere else, and they ended up with the tulip bulb mania. So that's what's going on at the moment. The dollar and the derivative instruments of the debt industries are dying. They're dying very rapidly. A new world is being born as we speak. One will not crash, followed by 300 years of darkness to be replaced by the other. The one that is dying, the dollar, is going to fall over like a cedar tree, and the new tree will emerge out of the stump of the old one. And that new tree is already germinated and growing quite rapidly, and that's the cryptocurrencies. So I personally expect that Bitcoin, a year from now, we will be, well, not even a year from now, but by the end of February of next year, we'll be looking at Bitcoin in about 13,800, according to my data. and that around that time we should see gold around 4,500. And it certainly has a use case as a store of value, but it's not exciting, glitzy, or usable in an electronic technological environment, and that's where we live now. So it'll be extremely highly precious should that technological environment ever crash. But at that point, that preciousness is going to be limited to how far you can walk and carry it.
Interesting points there. I wanted to talk about halfpasthuman.com. I'm looking at it right now. Link is in the description. Everybody should check that out. I see that you've got in big letters right there, the Bare Naked Wealth Report. That's an exciting.
Yes.
That sounds exciting
Yes.
to me, or maybe a little dangerous.
Here's what I'm doing, though. What I'm doing with all of this is I'm putting giving you a perspective of 40 years programming experience at at many different levels. On the cryptocurrencies and so forth, because at their core, they're all software. And that is where they are made or broken. And so my goal is to start there and then try and rapidly educate people as we go forward.
Fantastic. Just looking through all the reports. What can people expect if they were to purchase your reports?
Here's the situation. In the Bare Naked Wealth Reports 1 through 3, I included our woo-woo stuff, which is our forecast of the future based on my emotive reduction engine, which forecasts what emotions we will be seeing played out in markets and elsewhere 30, 60, 80, 180 days beyond where we are at that particular moment that the report comes out, and some long-term forecast. So those first 3 reports include that component. The 4th report is simply a breakdown of cryptocurrencies and how to analyze these for a well-managed portfolio if one were an investor or even as a speculator. And I was attempting in that 4th report to try and eliminate or trying to point out the pitfalls and the bad code examples and all these kind of things that I'm able to see. However, there are just two. So report number 5 coming up, I'm going to go back to the same format I used in the first 3, and we're going to eliminate any mention of altcoins that are not worth mentioning. So the only thing I'll be talking about are basically my personal evaluations on coins that are good and will stand some chance of returning value in the future. Because bear in mind, I expect 97 out of every 100 being created to simply fade away because they have no effective use case. The people behind them have muddied thinking, or the programming is bad, or they're unaware of true economic conditions, or any number of other reasons. So there's only going to be a few gems. We're at the same period of time now as I saw in the late 1990s that led to the formation of the standout Apple, Microsoft, and Google, that kind of a thing.
Sure.
And I'm hoping to try and help people pick those out of the current crop of cryptocurrencies.
That is the hard thing, isn't it? Getting in before the big run-up. Anybody can get in once, I always say once your Uber driver knows that something is hot, it's probably too late. And so you're helping people to get in early in the
yes,
game.
Correct. And on solid foundation on programming that makes sense, because there's a lot of these coins that simply don't make sense. Some of them are really goofy, like a fun token. The fun token makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, and I expect at one point we'll see, the laughing clown token.
Right.
But it'll probably have a very good use case, and we'll probably say, yeah, that makes sense too.
Sure. Or a Dogecoin, which has a Shiba Inu on the front. It's cute.
Right.
But how many people do you know that actually use that? That's a big
well,
question.
You can't go by me because I know a lot of goofy people, and a lot of them do use it. Yeah, but on the other hand, you also get like Veritasium, right? And if you'd gotten in on Veritasium in the beginning and been able to buy it at getting it effectively at 60 to 1 to Ethereum, and now it's 2 to 1, and eventually, in my opinion, it will eclipse Ethereum. That is to say, we'll be figuring out how many Ethereums it's going to take to buy a Vericoin. Yeah. And I back this, my opinion, on the 10, 15 years history of the people involved with the Vericoin. And there's a few other stellar gems out there that I'm able to find, but boy, there's wading through a huge marshy area to pick up these guys. There's just so many of the shice coins showing up.
Yeah. and that's why people have to check out your report on halfpasthuman.com, because you've done the due diligence, you've done the research, and others can benefit from that. And finally, I had to ask you about this. I saw this headline: Clif High's Webbot predicting the sun will begin scorching men in 2017. I know that's not financial necessarily, but that scared the heck out of me. What's going on here?
Well, you have to understand that what that headline references is we have throughout our entire planet, there are all these caves that humans used to live in. And when they used to live in there 40, 50, 60,000 years ago, they would draw stuff on the walls. They were bored. They were cave guys, but they were bored. They didn't have electronics. Sure. And so they would draw on the walls. And they drew from their personal experience. And many of these, the vast majority of these caves will have drawings in them of people standing at the mouth of the cave and putting a stick outside the mouth of the cave and having the stick catch on fire in their hands. And then coming back, some of the things even go on to illustrate using that fire that they just got by simply sticking the stick out the cave to light their campfires for cooking and so forth. What this refers to is the current state of the sun disease. It's not really a disease. It's where we are in the sun's transit through interstellar space, because the sun moves. And the sun is not a nuclear reactor. It's much more like a highly charged electrical ball of plasma. That ball is shrinking, and it's going to go down from 5,000 Kelvin down to about 3,000 Kelvin over these next 100-plus years. But we're at that point right now where that slight shrinkage and the cooling of the sun's corona is letting interstellar energies come in around the sun. So we're being bombarded in a way that you and I have never lived through before, with high-energy particles that are disturbing our atmosphere and causing these intense sunburns in just a few minutes outside. They're actually causing us to go into an ice age, which is the good part, because the ice age protects us during these periods of time. And we are going into an ice age because UV radiation class C, which never ever used to even come down to Earth, is now hitting the planet so intensely that vast areas of the ocean are evaporating and forming these rivers of water in the sky, which help occlude the sun and also cause the ice age by bringing precipitation into areas that'll freeze up and this kind of a deal. So, we've got snow persisting in California. We've got other areas of the planet that are having snow through summer. So this is the official, in my opinion, my personal official first year of the ice age, because we'll have ice that will form in summertime, and it will persist all the way through, and it'll grow next summer, and we'll be much more into it next summer. So no, we're not going to start bursting into flame as a result of the sun now, but it wouldn't surprise me that such conditions might exist to where you couldn't go out in the sun from, say, 11 to 1 or 11 to 3, something like that, depending on where you're at, in some specific parts of the planet without suffering extreme damage and maybe even death at some point here in the future. And this year and next year, we actually, according to our data sets, will have instances of people that will be unprepared for it, will leave a building and be struck by the sun with such ferocity that their lives will be at risk.
I hope people are listening to your message, because it's so important. We need gentlemen such as yourself out there to warn us, to let us know ahead of time, what to look for, what to be aware of, both financially and, as we just spoke about, and beyond the finances, because none of the financial stuff matters so much if we're dealing with the science stuff that could end it all for us. Pretty scary.
Well, the saying is quite true. Your wealth is your health.
Yeah.
In all respects. So, keep yourself healthy, and you can always make money.
Absolutely. I like the sound of that. I know your time is valuable. Thank you so much. Once again, the website is halfpasthuman.com, link in the description. Do you have any social media sites you'd like to let everybody know about?
I do things on Twitter, but I'm getting into some big projects at the moment, so I'll be visiting that less and less. But really, that's it.
Okay, gotcha. So everybody should visit the website ASAP. Thank you, Mr. High, for joining me on Looking at the Markets. You're welcome back anytime, sir.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.